welcome to today's episode of Free to Lead, Journeys of Leaders, driven by passion, inspired by purpose. And I'm very excited to welcome today's guest, actually a very good friend of mine, Jayson Webb. He owns his own digital marketing company. He's the best salesman I've ever met and a really good friend who helped me out when I first started out in my current business with websites and social media and ideas and context. So without further ado, I'd really love to introduce you today to Jayson. Jayson, hello.
Hi, Will. Nice to be on your podcast. Another new business venture for you and an amazing time in your business life. But yeah, no, it's a pleasure to be here, mate.
Great, great. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got to be the owner of a seven-figure marketing business in London with 40 odd employees, mostly in India. It's quite a diverse entity.
Yeah. I would say at the heart of my success comes adversity. I was lucky enough to have a really bad childhood and also lucky to have taken that bad childhood and evilly spread it into the world, because you learn very quickly in life that actually where your success lies is within yourself. And for many years, I wasted a lot of time pointing the fingers out that way. And the most important parts of my life were perhaps the most troublesome. And when I got to grips with actually, I'm the source of any discomfort in my life, not the parking warden or not the school teacher who's telling me what to do, not my dad who's hitting me around the head, not my mum who's taken me to my fourth barber and introducing me, here's your new dad. That the reason my life didn't work was actually because I wasn't comfortable with that. And actually what we try to understand in our own lives for whatever adversity you faced is that, can we come to terms with it? Can you accept it? And then who are you going to be out of that? So you could be really angry. You could carry it around like, oh, you don't know how hard my life's been and all that stuff. And actually the biggest, most successful people that I know have repurposed that hurt, let's call it, into something amazing and powerful. So how I've done that in my life is through sales. I'm a salesperson.
Well, wait, let me interrupt you a little bit, right? Because I remember you telling me a story that I think you were 14 or 15, got kicked out of your house. You ended up in some DOS house with some really seedy characters and drug addicts and things. And then there's one day you found this book. Like,
that's a good story.
And your self-help journey, if you like. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was just an incidental thing. I can't even explain it. You could go in a spiritual way and say, that was it. That was the moment. But I choose to say that it just took me on a different course. I was living in a bedsit. It was the only thing I could afford. It was £35 a week. If you didn't pay, the landlord beat you up. I was a big lad. You wouldn't want to try and beat me up, but that was the reality. In that place, there was 3 rooms upstairs, my own room. Opposite me was a really old guy in his 70s called Peter, who was a proper alcoholic, used to drink neat vodka at 6 a.m. And next door to him was a guy called John, who again was an alcoholic, and he was the can of beer. You see these guys with carrier bags full of beer, and they just go in the room and they didn't come out for 3 days. And downstairs was a lovely girl called Pamela, who told me that she worked in a estate agent's, but this guy used to pick her up in a massive Mercedes at like 10 o'clock every night. Eventually, she came clean with me and said what she'd done for a living. She used to jump into bed with me. I had a phone, and that was a big thing. Can I use your phone? I want to ring my mum. And then downstairs was a guy called Marcus, who actually I knew through a circle of people. He was not the guy to mess with, and he had a massive birthmark down his face, quite a scary looking guy. And he was a drug dealer. And no one went in the kitchen, these places. So I don't know if you've ever been in a bedsit. The arrangement is the shared kitchen, and behind the kitchen normally got a bathroom. No one really ventures in there, might go in for a quick rustle wash, but it was a pretty grim place. And there was fat that thick on the cooker. And above the eye level grill that they have, which again was a war zone, there was this bookshelf, just a dusty old bookshelf with pots and pans and things and books on it, which had that much thick green sort of dust, and you wouldn't. And one day I was just standing there looking up with my arms folded. I don't even know why I was doing it. I can't even explain it to you. And there was a book, and it was just the title of the book that just got my attention. It was like How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I got up and pulled it down, and I had a look at it, and I thumbed through it. And I wasn't a book reader, and I didn't really think much of it, but something had me take that back to my bedsit. And during the twilight hours when you're bored and you're sitting there, and I had the odd thumb through it, and I didn't really see anything that was there for me, but this bloody book stuck itself around my bedsit, and it just wouldn't go away. It was just there everywhere I went. I was always moving this book, and one day I just spent some time reading it. And I remember one of the stories in the book is telling the story of a young girl that her parents couldn't afford the rent anymore, and the landlord was kicking them out. She was just this determined young girl. She walked all the way over this field and went to the landlord's house and said, "Look, my parents need a house. We've got to live. We've got to have a place to stay. You've got to." And she just was so determined that this landlord caved into her determined will and let them stay in the house rent free for this period of time until her dad found a job. And I think it was probably in the 1930s or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember reading that and thinking, wow, what an amazing young girl for her parents not to be able to do that. And this like 8-year-old girl, whatever she was, just made that happen through her unwillingness to accept what was going on in their life. And I remember sitting there in that room in that moment thinking, I haven't got anything. I haven't got anything. But if I was to ask why I haven't got anything, I'm pointing the finger at, well, my dad used to beat me up. I got expelled from school, and I can't hold a job down because the boss tells me what to do and I don't like it, and blah, 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 blah. And actually, I realized as I got further into that book, but they start talking about personal responsibility and taking ownership of your circumstances and doing something about it through doing, not saying or thinking. Some people think that their world exists in their brain somehow, but actually through the physical action of doing something. And what I'd done, it was I took the book to the library, which I'd never been in, and I went to the counter and I said to this girl, "Excuse me," I said, "You got any more books like this?" And she paused and she's looking at it and scanned it, and she said, "I think it's in the business or the self-development or whatever." And we walked over there, and I remember picking a few books up, and they just stuck around. One of the things I decided, my very first sales job was knocking on doors for a carpet cleaning company. And the boss was a tyrant. The job in the advert looked amazing.
Yeah.
Company car, £12,000 a year, commission. You thought, oh, this is amazing. But the guy stuck you in a car with another 3 or 4 people, drove you to the middle of nowhere, gave you a highlighted map and said, bye. And you was left there with nothing, no bus fare, no nothing. And you had to sell and ring back into the office. And if you didn't, you weren't picked up. They didn't pick you up. So it was that sort of sales job. And
Wow.
actually, I met some people on that job that were in a similar situation in their lives to me. And I started sharing with them about these books I was reading. And they was like, "You're off your head, you're mad." And I said, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a job in double glazing because they earn loads of money, those guys. And if I could earn loads of money, I can get myself out of this bedsit. I can be in a better circumstance. So I did, and I really tried hard. And actually, my estranged father, so the dad I'd never, ever even properly been with or met, he gave me an opportunity. He said, "Look, I know a guy that's got his own double glazing company. He trains people. You go and do some stuff with him." And I took one of these guys that was selling the carpet cleaning, and we went and we actually started our own double glazing company in that day. He literally told us what to do. And rather than going out knocking on doors saying, "I remember the pitch still. Hi, I'm from Ashley St Paul. We're working in your area cleaning carpets," we just swapped it to double glazing. And we got ourselves our first few leads. And then by magic, we realized that actually we had something. And that something was what we could do. We could affect our lives. And the first job we ever got was in New Malden. It was at the back of a dentist. We just happened to knock on the door and she was coming out. She said, "Actually, I've got a rotten window. I've got to deal with it." And we made a few £100 and we bought a typewriter. It seems crazy in these days, doesn't it? We bought a typewriter and we just wrote letters to people, and we done some clever things. So that one moment when I found that book set me on a trajectory for self-development. And actually, I didn't do it through willingness. I done it through necessity. And obviously when you start any new thing, you're going to learn things and you're going to embrace the good, the bad, the ugly, and uncovering some of the things that you are deficient with in life and facing those is uncomfortable. You're not expected to go, wow, this is amazing. So that trajectory led to me talking about it openly with people and mainly finding out people are not into that sort of thing. I met a guy on a course who was into self-development, meditation, and he'd done this course in London and he invited me along and one thing led to another and I progressed through that self-development stuff.
Yeah. And,
Um,
and, and, and so it's
yeah,
clear on that journey, and that's how you and I met. So when you then moved into, can you talk a little bit about building your business? Because obviously you're not
yeah,
still double glazing, right? So what was the
no.
path from there?
I think it's like most things, like if you're learning to bake cakes and you've got an amazing recipe that your grandma gave you, and then you see that recipe and you share it with your friends and family and they enjoy it and they love it, it's natural to want the rest of the world to have a taste of that. But actually, that's business. Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
So what I realized was that when you can get masterful over yourself and your communication with others, not through manipulation, not through anything other than joining of minds and sharing an experience, which is you need this and I can make that happen for you.
Mm,
And not only can I make it happen to you, I can make it enjoyable for that to happen in your life, whether it be double glazing or whatever. So
yeah.
once I commanded those skills, I started realizing actually I could work for anyone. And one of the sort of hang-ups I had about I was very successful in the double glazing world. I was the top 15 salesperson in the country and all of that stuff. But one of the things I realized was that people had a bit of an opinion about double glazing salespeople. And because of my upbringing and my sort of view of myself at that time in my life, I thought if I could work for a blue chip company, maybe people would change their opinion about that and me. I was
Yeah.
always wanting to prove something, I think. So I
Yes.
went to work for British Gas. And that's really where I cut my teeth on volume based selling. 6 people a day, 6 days a week. But you imagine I've done that for 6.5 years. Imagine how many people I met and how many conversations I had and how many shared experience. I regularly sat with people in all situations in their life and shared tears with them.
Tell me
Like,
about that time when you went to a house and they got all these pictures of a dog around, and you
yeah,
go, "What's going on?"
there's so many things like that where we have a shared experience, and that's how humans connect. There's so many things that have happened to me. I've sat at a bus stop in the rain and had an amazing conversation that's given me ideas from a little old lady. It doesn't have to be connected.
Mm,
It's everyone has got gold in their sort of resource. You don't see that. You could have an opinion of a little old lady at the bus stop,
yes.
but actually there's gold there. And that's
Yeah.
what I realized. Everyone is sitting in this office here today. Everyone has got something special. And I've tapped in to what's special about me, which is my ability to motivate and move people. And I've taken that to new levels within my structures of my organization. So I want people to take themselves on. I
Yes.
don't want them to do anything. Yeah. Like I want people to understand that they are capable through their own processes that is within them and forms part of my daily conversations. We have a laugh about it. I mean, we could spin the camera around and show you some people, but it could be a belief that someone holds. And I'm very interested in what people believe in. Whether it was 500 years ago, they believed the world was flat, and some people still do.
Yes.
Whether we've got a very long running joke with Bowden, who works in the office here, about noodles. Noodles are flour, water, and no more really, just extruded into different shapes. But
Yeah.
he's got a belief that certain noodle from a Chinese, for instance, is not nice. It's really weird. But when I pointed out, actually, it's exactly the same ingredients as a pasta. It's just extruded slightly differently. It's just uncovers how someone can form a belief that's really based on the version of their own truth. And
Mm,
when you open it out for discussion, you start realizing the absurdity of our beliefs and that the most of the issues that we're stopped by in our own lives and the world and business and everything is formed out of a belief. We don't believe X, Y, Z, and therefore we're not even going to try. So I don't know, I can't say the formula, but I know that my experience of taking myself on, and we've driven Formula One cars. That's a bucket list thing for me, but you can't try and find many people like us who are not experienced racing drivers who have driven a Formula One car.
Yeah.
And so therefore that ability to be inclined to take myself on in all areas is what's given us the sort of desire to then do that with others. I want that more for the people in my organization I do myself. I've got wealth, you can only eat so much and go on so many holidays and all that stuff.
Yes.
It raises so many questions for me as a business person. I've had all sorts of challenges around every area of my life, but I always feel confident that I can find an answer because I'm dealing with me.
Yeah, it's really great. That's that mindset of it's over here. I just finished writing my book, which is Free to Lead, Shattering Your Limiting Beliefs.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So it'll make a lot of sense to you because a lot of them they're not surfacing. You don't even see.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the noodles, that sounds like, yeah, but where else is that?
Yeah, see, I'm just looking at that little sign behind me. Happiness is an inside job. I love that. It's everywhere we look at where we're complaining, let's call it, or we have a gripe about why I've not got this, or why my wife's not doing that, or why my son's not doing that, or why the government's not doing that. We can actually look at it's formed inside a belief. And that belief comes from our past, and we've made decisions about these events.
Yes.
And then what we're doing is we're gathering as much evidence and as many people that will subscribe to our belief as possible to form some righteousness about it. Because most people really carry their beliefs around like they're right about it. And we know from our own education that actually that's the bit that's stopping them. The righteousness that, it's stopping them. And actually not taking on the belief that you're right about everything is actually the most liberating thing to do.
Yeah.
So that's my tip of the day.
I want to just keep us back on track. Remember, this is Journeys of Leaders, driven by passion, inspired by purpose. So everything you're saying is great because it gives us a background, but you must have moved from selling boilers for British Gas to somehow having a tech company, where you're running website for people and you've got 40 people in India and a whole tech company. And like, how did you go from there?
Equally, if you take any great business person, they've got diverse interests in business. They're into all sorts of manner of things. When you are a people mover, you can move yourself and people. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I'm looking at the market of what's happening in the world. And we're in a digital world right now. AI, websites, marketing, video content, all of that stuff. It would be similar to, I think I saw some content once about some people walking through New York when they were still in the 1930s and the guy's got a mangle to do the washing with. And they say, hang on, we've got these washing machine things now. And the two guys that are arguing over that fact were just from different worlds. So what difference does it make what I do is, do we add the value in our clients' lives? I had a conversation. I left British Gas because I had cancer in 2009 and I had to give up work. And I took about 1.5 years to get well. And then I took a job in the company that was doing some work with us. I begged them to really take me on. They didn't want to take me on, but I used my skills as a salesperson to sell them the idea and they took it. I worked with a guy who happened to be seconded from the Indian office, and he had a gripe about London and was like, I don't know what you lot are all amazed about London for. And my city in India is so much better. And I then went there because I could say that actually I was interested in what is the attraction to him. He's telling me how amazing tech people, how easy it is to get staff, what sort of how committed to the work they are, and blah 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 blah. So I thought only one way to find out is just go there. I think that's the difference. The secret sauce that I see in all businesses that I work with is just doing it.
But wait, how did that turn into your current business? Is that the point somewhere
Yeah.
in India it happened, or did it
Yeah,
happen?
I worked for a massive marketing agency, American company, who had offices all around the world, and they happened to have some of those people in their offices in London.
Right.
I am interested in people, and I got into the workings of that business. I wanted to understand how it worked, how it made its money, what were the components, how does the finance in that company work, how does the market inside of it work, all of that part. And this one gentleman invited me there, and that's how it happened. I went out there rather than just come back home and go, oh man, it's a great guy today. He's from India. He's invited me out there and not ever going. I see that a lot. I see loads of people say, I had that amazing idea. And now I see it on the telly and it's being made. I had that idea. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, but what actions did you take?
Well,
Where
what
did
happened in India then? What happened in India? How do you end up having 40 staff in India?
Look, I would probably say I'm half Indian now because I just fell in love with the whole operation of the way that business works in India. So they're very can-do people. Yeah. They're not bogged down by rules and regulations and all of that stuff. That is happening a little bit in India now, which is what they're complaining about, which is another story. But I went there, I held interviews in the hotel, and I had 30, 40 people a day. I selected the person I wanted to be my first developer. They came on board, and very quickly I sold enough work for them to want another developer and
What
then
work
another
were
one.
you selling? Was this the websites? Well, this.
Yeah, I started off like I worked for the American company. Our speciality was pay-per-click marketing. So that is really paying for traffic to your web asset. So you've
Right.
got to have a website, and to get quality traffic to that website, you have to set up some sort of campaign. In those days, it was just Google Ads.
Mm.
And so then I repurposed my business to specialize in the websites because the agency I worked for wasn't really into the website. They got someone else to do that and do the Google Ads and other campaigns as well. There's many people that are digitally, like 7-year-old kids are coding websites out there in India before our kids even know how to open a website. It's incredible the level of education that they're getting from their siblings even before they get to school. There's a shared love of technology and education in India, like it's a passion. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
I
you had
saw that.
one developer then. That's how you started. One developer who'd create websites that you were selling to people,
Yeah.
then providing the service, presumably, to bring web traffic to their
Yeah,
website.
if you take any growth in any business, you don't want to be top heavy. You don't want to have a massive organization without the work. So obviously what I done was I used my sales skills to acquire the customers. I worked really hard on that. We obviously set up our own campaigns and we acquired decent customers. I was earning a lot of money when I worked for the American company, but when I started my own business, I was not immediately successful. I had to work the components of that out. I'm a great salesperson, but running the individual components of a marketing company yourself is not easy. You have to learn it. But being committed, that's what I done. I went and learned it and I hired the right people. Having worked in the industry previously for a company, it was a totally different world to doing it yourself. But that was really the skills that I'd already acquired in the sales side to scale that business.
So that's where you started. When was that?
2015. So
2015. Here we are 9
yeah,
years later. And you've told me, so I don't mind, you're a 7-figure business owner,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you built that business up, 46 employees, is it? Something like that?
Approximately, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Most of them in India, at the top of their class, they get to go to your company.
Yeah, we've got recruitment processes where through our network, we've got recruitment companies that we work with. We've got a university professors and stuff like that. Spotting talent is actually a good component in business. I know it works lots in other trades. So I looked at businesses that were really doing really good, clever recruitment.
Yeah.
And we've done the same. We've modeled the behavior of the best businesses and taken what we feel was the right thing. So certainly recruitment, we only take the best of the best.
And that's in the technical side. What about the marketing side then? What about the Google ads? What about the SEO
Yeah.
sales, all that stuff, which you
What,
also.
yeah, one thing that we realized early in our business was that although we love our Indian family, they're not the greatest at content and English writing and stuff like that. There's nuances in English language that doesn't quite get translated. So we brought our own content team into the UK for our own content writing. So that was one of the first things that we spotted as an opportunity. So we had an office here, which then became an office next door. And then we hired our own British account managers for the Google ads. And then we hired a specialist social media expert, all of the different components across the broad spectrum of services that digital marketing covers. You would call us a full service agency. We cover the A to Z of digital marketing.
So,
and some offline.
If people are listening, what would you be providing for seven-figure business owners in all different kinds of businesses? It's not one specific business that I'm ever attached to. I like to work with all different kinds. It gives me also insights, what leaders are dealing with over here. They're not even thinking about over here yet. Yeah, those insights over there. Go, I never even thought of looking at that.
Okay. And I can nail it for you. And here's the thing that really makes them wake up to what degree of passion we've got for what we do. A lot of businesses that I've worked for in the past have lumbered into a massive size that they're like the oil tanker that needs to turn around. And the decision-making chain becomes so complex and so legally binding and all of that stuff that they take forever to take their organization any further and towards where it needs to be, because the world is moving at a faster pace than most big organizations are. So in short, what we are is a super mega ambitious company ourselves. And the ambitions that we have, we breathe into the relationship with the companies that we work with. Those people know that when they're waking up in the morning, that we've already started on their stuff, that we want success and in-hand relationship. We're waking up in the morning thinking about them. We're not thinking about ourselves, because this got told to me many years ago, and it always stuck with me. If you can help enough people get what they want in life, you'll automatically get what you want. There's no other recipe for success than that. If you look at businesses that are succeeding, they are helping people get what they want. The superfluous part of that is that you get automatically what you want. We have an amazing time. Tomorrow, we've got a yoga day. We're all going yoga. How many people wake up and say, I'm going yoga with my company? All of us. So those things. And we've done many events, and we're culturally, that's who we are. We want to have fun, but we want to play to win. So we're playing to win for your business.
Yeah. And it just reminded me of one thing you said that always stuck out with me, because I've referred clients to you. It says, I'll check them out, but if I can't add value, I won't make them an offer. And it's not surprised me, because I know you now, but when you show up, and I'm on a call as well, and you start telling them all about their website, and you tell them all about what they're doing and all about their market and all about their competition, it's holy shit, they know more about their business than they do.
Yeah, and also the level of relationship that we have is one from teaching. We want to teach you how we're doing what we're doing and why we're doing what we're doing, so that when we have a conversation, it's meaningful. There's nothing like the old sort of relationships that are so strong that we all understand why we're doing it. Some of the businesses that I've worked for, including the American company that I work for, thought it was a good idea. And it made some sort of logical sense that if you keep the customer in the dark and pretend this is some sort of dark art and they wouldn't understand it even if you explained it, that client wouldn't want to know the detail and would stay forever because they think you guys have got this well sussed. But what I've found is if you come along and then educate someone, they might start asking some questions to that other business, which they might not want to answer. For instance, one of the companies I work for had a 50 to 60% margin on their Google ads, and they never knew. When you start looking at, actually, we run most of the Google ads at no more than 20% margin, but some people can be paying 50 or 60. They're just not asking the right questions.
Yeah.
So when you educate them how the whole space works, we want them to ask the questions. That's why it's exciting to work with these businesses and studying the businesses that they are competing with. That's the stuff that we teach them about. So did you know that your competitor, who's way above you here, they're doing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. We're going to wind it up right now. It's been great to have you on the show, Jayson. And how, if anybody wants to reach out to you and just say, hey, what could you do for my business? How would they reach you?
Yep. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can go to our website, which is telsamedia.com. You can also look at our software, which is telegus.com. And there's many other ways. Find me on Facebook. I'm sure you'll find me somewhere on the internet. Just type my name. I'm sure you'll.
Yeah, you got an
I'm sure you'll
unusual
see.
spelling of Jayson with a Y there. Jayson.
Jayson. Yeah. Well, I think
Webb.
my mum. I think
Yeah.
my mum was dyslexic or something.
Jayson, thanks for being on the show. And thanks
Awesome,
for
Will. Brilliant.
Great.
Thanks for your invite.
You're
You
welcome.
take care, mate. Thanks.